Hi, this is Cheryl Mays from Rise and Shine CF, and I am so excited to have this segment of the Author's Lane because we have, for the past several days, we have been introducing all of you to various authors of different genres, and they've been sharing their inspiration, their motivation, some quirky things about them. This has not been a book club. This has truly been an opportunity for you to meet the author and kind of find out the story behind the story. And that's the piece that I love about this. And I am excited today because Cathy Fyock is the Business Book Strategist. And here's what she does. And this is why I am so excited about having you on, Cathy, is that you coach authors.
Yes.
And so you have over 100 authors that you've actually worked with. So you have seen everything.
Almost.
I would think you've seen everything from authors that looked at a blank sheet of paper and said, I got nothing, until authors that have just like, oh my gosh, I can't stop writing. And you're like, okay, wait, it's like 1,000 pages. You got to stop.
How did you know?
I'm just guessing because I've, as an author myself, at one point you have to literally say,
No.
Okay, I need to release it. I need to let it go.
Exactly. You know, so many of my authors are lifelong learners. And so they're always learning about their topic, their passion. And I said to him, you know, at some point you can't put everything you know into this book. You have to stop. And then, you know, the next bit of information can go in your next book.
There you go. It's interesting. I was talking to an author earlier on yesterday, and he had collected like 10 years of information, whereas the book was going to be like that. And when he finished, he said it was like this because he was like, I can't put all of that in there.
No, you can't.
Well, I am excited because not only do you work with authors, you are an author yourself.
Yes.
And I've gone to your website, and just for those of you that are here, you can go to CathyFyock.com. And that is Miss Cathy's website. If you are interested in being an author, you know, a lot of times people want to just sit down at the table and start writing, which, you know, in some cases that might be great. But it's also great to have a coach, someone that can actually guide you, direct you, keep you, you know, moving straight ahead instead of going off course and ending up being, you know, a little disappointed in what you've produced.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of my clients come to me because they're busy people. They're trying to juggle a whole bunch of different things and write a book, and they don't want to waste time. So I'm all about not only getting it out, but getting it out as productively, as efficiently, as effectively, as painlessly as possible.
Now, what I loved about your site is that you call yourself the possibility partner.
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
Well, it's all about possibilities. I've been saying for a long time that books are magic. Books for the author are magic, and they open the door to a whole new future. And that's the beauty of writing a book, is you step into this level of thought leadership that you never imagined possible just by writing the book. So that's what the possibility partner, I'm helping people step into the possibilities of all they could become.
You know, that is so interesting that you say that because, you know, we talk about books in genres.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to categorize them. This book
Yes.
is fiction. This book is self-help. This book is spiritual. And so you've had an opportunity to see books of all genres, or is your specialty business books, business related books?
Well, I call myself the Business Book Strategist, which means that not all my books are business books, but I help people who are writing a book as a strategy to grow their business or their platform. So if someone has a ministry that may not be a true business, but it is a platform that they want to get out there in the world. So if they have a message, a business, a concept, when the book is that vehicle, that's where I am the most help with those authors.
That's awesome. And then you said you also can connect them with a publisher. Because we know
Yes.
that's the next step.
Exactly, because I'm not an editor, I'm not a publisher, but I do have wonderful connections in that world, and I can make introductions for my authors so that they find the best publishing and editing partner based on what their needs are.
So I have a question. I'm sure the readers have heard two things. So they've heard about publishers, and then they've heard about self-publishing.
Yes.
And so do you have any idea as to, is one way beneficial more so than the other way, or do they have different purposes? What is your take on being a published author with a publishing company or self-publishing?
Well, you know, my first 5 books were traditionally published with a traditional publisher. And that was kind of like almost the only way there was to go back in that day. But it seems that more recently, and with many of the authors that I'm working with, almost all of my authors today are going the route of self-publishing. Now, I have a couple of folks, those who are working in academia, they're wanting to go with a publishing house within that academic world.
Okay.
But otherwise, there's every reason to do self-publishing or hybrid publishing, a fee-for-service model versus getting paid a royalty and you sell your book basically to the publisher.
Okay. And so then it pretty much depends on the individual as to what they're going to use the book for. I know a lot of times for someone like myself, I use the book to help in my speaking.
Absolutely.
Speaking engagements.
Absolutely. And that's why so many of my authors are also speakers or consultants or coaches or all of the above, some combination. And so they're using their book to get that expertise out there in the world and become known for that topic or that subject matter.
And that's so important, especially for a new writer. So if a new writer were to come to you and say, Cathy, I have this idea and I want to get it to paper.
Yes.
What would be like your first 2 steps for them, or your first 3?
Okay, that's a great question. The number one question I ask is, why do you want to write a book? How will you use this book in your business, in your career, in your life? And I want to have an understanding of if they want this to grow their speaking business, if they want more speeches, then there's a certain way that you would want to write the book. If you want to grow your coaching business, there's a certain way that you write the book. So that is the most important question. Why do you want to write it? How will it support you in your business going forward, or your ministry or your platform or whatever it might be? The second most important question is, what is your book about? Sometimes I talk with authors and they say, well, it's about I talk about leadership. Well, leadership is really big and broad, and you really need to sort of pick a lane within leadership. Are you speaking to leaders as new leaders as they are stepping into leadership roles, emerging leaders? Are you talking about senior level executive leaders? Are you talking about leaders who aren't really in a leadership role, but who need to exemplify leadership qualities? So all of those things, having the really defining statement of what is your book about is really important.
Okay, I like that, because it gets people thinking about, there's a plan before you sit down.
Yes, and I think that's the most important thing. Several people have asked me, do I just sit down and start writing? Well, that's one way to start, but I don't recommend it. I think it's really important to get really clear on what you're using the book for, why you're writing it, how it's going to help others, and then you can really start writing and getting some progress made.
So is that kind of like the who, what, when, where, why concept?
Yes, it really is. It really is. And getting that real clarity around those issues. And that's what I do generally as a book coach. That's, I think, one of my most important first steps is to help people frame that up. And then once they get going and they start writing, then I can be their accountability partner. We can set goals. We can set benchmarks. We can set check-ins. If they get stuck, I can help them get unstuck. So it's a great opportunity to help them just get the process moving forward, because for many people, a book will always be really important, but it will never be urgent. And so what I do by hiring me as their book coach, they are sort of introducing this element of urgency into the equation, which creates this, okay, I need to get it done. If I'm working with Cathy for 6 months, I need to get it done in 6 months, and let's figure out how to do that.
There you go. You know, I was, it's interesting because when you talk to different authors, one of the questions I ask is, you know, people want to know, how long does it take to write a book? You know, is it 30 days? Because you hear now, you can write a book in 30 days. It takes you 6 months. It takes you 2 years. You know, and to your point, as an accountability partner, you're making sure that the work doesn't go undone, so that it doesn't get shelved before it even gets started.
Exactly. In my 6-month package, for example, I just started doing this. I'm sending out letters to my coaching clients when they're 3 months into the program to say, okay, here's where you kind of should be, and here's still all the things that you need to do, because I don't need to want this book more than my client does. I'm just there to help them reach their goal. So I'm there to understand what the client's goal is, when the author wants to have their book in their hand, and then help them realize that goal.
It's interesting. So because you mentioned something earlier about writer's block. And I think that's a huge, huge question for people that are on the outside going, okay, so what happens when you have, you know, writer's block, and what is a piece of advice I want to say that you would have for a person that is suffering from writer's block, where they got nothing coming?
Well, my suggestion, first of all, is most of my clients find that they don't have writer's block in that traditional sense of looking at a blank page, because there's never an opportunity to have a blank page.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is start with questions. What are the questions that your targeted reader wants to know about your subject? And you write all of the questions down. And then, so every time you sit down to write, you are sitting down to answer a question that your reader has.
Okay.
So it's easy to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just think of content. So if you can think of it in terms of, what are the questions my targeted reader wants to ask or wants to understand about my subject matter, then it becomes very easy. So having that list of questions, fully developing that list of questions, and then identifying in advance the stories that you want to tell. Since most of my authors are speakers, they've been telling stories to helping their audiences solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your signature stories? What are those stories that you want to include in the book? And then where will they fit in? And then we start actually doing the questions on Post-its and then the stories on Post-its, and we organize those on the wall. So, okay, all these Post-its over here, that's chapter 1. And all these Post-its here are chapter 2. And it becomes very easy to write that way. So I think if you start with this whole notion of, what does my reader need? And then start with the content that you're already sharing or that you're familiar with. The other thing I really suggest is that you don't ever start from a blank page. Once again, I'm a big believer in repurposing content.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been blogging, if you've written articles, if you've been doing training sessions, if you have any kind of content that can be repurposed, if you have PowerPoint slides that you've been using in a training or whatever, those you can talk your way through those key points that you share, and then you've got, half your book written. One of my authors, literally, I said, well, first gather up everything that you've written beforehand, before you start writing anything. And they gathered what they'd been doing some blogging, they'd done some emails, they'd done some journaling. They pulled it all together, and before they even began to write, they discovered that about a third of the book was already written.
Uh-huh.
So very cool.
That is so interesting, because you give it a strategy. You give it a systematic strategy that actually helps you through the process. So if you're a new author and you're like, you know what, I have a story that I want to share, or I have a training component that I would like to discuss and share with other people, that you actually probably already have material.
Yes. And it's, to me, I this is kind of interesting. As a book coach, I do not like to write, which is kind of odd.
She who has 9 books out, 9 books.
But it's hard work. So I'm all about helping my authors. I'm not one of these, oh, it's so easy for me, so you should be able to do it too. No, it's hard for me. And but I want to help you make it easier. And repurposing content is one of the key ways that you make this whole thing a lot easier for yourself.
Well, I'll tell you, that is awesome advice, especially for someone that's just sitting down, or has this thought in the back of their head, like, I have a book in me.
Yes.
I just don't know where to get started, but asking the questions, having those questions, and then looking and see what materials you already have that can be repurposed. And then hopefully finding a coach that can actually, okay, now this is your next step. I know one of the pieces that I found to be a little complicated in my process, is I just put out my first book last year, was just that, like the what now? Okay, I've done that, what next? I've done that, what next? And so to have a coach that actually says, okay, now in your 3 months time, you should be here. In your 6 months, you should be here. Because I think everybody needs, when you're doing something that is out of your comfort zone, or it's out of your pattern of what you do, to have someone that is an accountability partner. I 100% believe in accountability partners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and not only do my coaching clients, are they accountable to me, but they're accountable to one another, because there's a group coaching component in my work. And I love the group coaching sessions, because there is that shared accountability, and there's also that shared support. It's one thing when you think you're the only one dealing with the negative voice inside your head, but it's another thing when you bring it to the group coaching call and everybody talks about their negative voice inside their head.
Yeah, you don't feel so much like a unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. And we can all then talk about our best practices and ways that we deal with fighting those demons, or finding time on our calendar, or guarding that time on our calendar.
I think that's awesome. So if you are interested in writing a book, if you have never thought, or if you have never even heard of a book coach, here's an opportunity for you to find out more about, the benefits of having a coach on your side, that support person. A lot of times that's what we miss, is that support person that actually says, hey, have you written anything lately?
Absolutely. And, I would love to offer anybody out there who is interested in writing a book, I would love to schedule a complimentary strategy session, no strings attached. I guarantee that in our time together, our 30-minute call, will give you some clarity about what you're writing, how you're going to approach it, what your strategy will be. We'll talk about your next steps, which might be working with me, but it might be something else. It might be reading a book. It might be taking a class. It might be a number of different things. So I would welcome people, if they would like to just reach out to me via email at Cathy@cathyfyock.com. So it's cathyfyock.com, CATHYF as in Frank, YOCK.
Awesome. And I'm going to put that into the comment section from this also, and the complimentary sessions that you offered. So that is awesome. Look, I am so excited. We haven't even gotten to the book yet.
I know. I was just thinking, we haven't even mentioned the name of my book.
So we're going to move there. I just think it's great when people have an opportunity to ask questions of someone that deals with this every single day in a professional manner.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do want to talk about the book, because yes, that is why we are on the author's lane, is to talk about the book. But I think what we did talk about, though, is great for individuals to understand the process.
Yes, and Cheryl, I think this is a wonderful time. So many people are at home, they have some downtime or some additional time. If that is you, this could be the perfect time to write that book, to get it started. So I'd love to talk with you about it if that would be helpful.
Fabulous. Well, guys, you heard it. That's an offer on the table. If you're interested, taking that next step, getting out of your comfort zone, moving beyond your fear, and just taking that step. I always say you have to lean into it.
Yes, you do.
And if that's the case and that's where you are, then you have this opportunity with Miss Cathy to actually at least have the conversation. And with that, I want to talk now about the speaker author, Sell More Books and Book More Speeches.
Well, I would rather you talk about one of my other books.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now that is my most recent book, The Speaker Author. But okay. I think there are probably more people out there right now who are thinking, I would really like to write a book, and I would really like to get started. So if it's all right, absolutely. I would rather talk about On Your Mark, from first word to first draft in 6 weeks.
Oh, that is awesome. That is perfect. Yes, let's talk about that.
Okay, great. I know that's rather audacious of me.
No, that is great. And I think it's a great place because that's where we just came from in conversation.
I think that's the need right now is people want to know how to get it done. And that's the book to help them do it.
So it's called On Your Mark.
Mm-hmm. And from first word to first draft in 6 weeks.
There you go, people. You wondered how long it takes to actually get you from where you are to where you want to be. The first draft could be done in 6 weeks. And I think that's awesome. Matter of fact, that's probably how much time we have at home.
Probably so. A lot of my authors do, if they get really serious, they absolutely do it. I think you need probably at least 10 hours a week to get it done in 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And 20 is, of course, better. But if you have 10 hours a week to get really serious and go through the process that I outline in the book, then you can get it done.
So share with me about the book. So what is it? Is this book a strategy book? Is it something that you can follow? What is it in the book that will help you?
It really is. It's a step-by-step process about it's kind of like building the strategic plan for your book. Mm-hmm. So it's starting with why, as we were discussing earlier. Why do I want to write this? How does it fit in with my career, my life, my business, my ministry, my platform? And then getting clear on the strategic elements. Who's the targeted reader? What's the book really about? What problem does it solve? What are the questions my targeted reader has about it? And then it's a building block kind of a process for getting it done. It's being intentional about the process. It's being deliberate. It's also being disciplined in marking it on your calendar. And here's one of the things I say to authors all the time. Do not put write my book on your to-do list. Doesn't go on the to-do list. It goes on your calendar. So you block chunks of time, and the chunk of time that you would want to block is based on you and your writing style and what's available to you. But put it on your calendar and be very specific about what you want to accomplish during each little time chunk.
And so the book is available on Amazon?
Yes. And I just this past fall recorded it, so it's now also on Audible.
Nice, which is where everybody is going now. Everybody wants Audible books now.
I know.
And so
it was fun reading the book. Yeah, it was really fun to read it again.
There you go. So you've heard it, the book On Your Mark. It's if you want to hold it up again, Cathy, I do want to get the subtitle correct.
Okay.
From first word to first draft in 6 weeks.
That's right.
So it's an opportunity for you during this time, or even beyond this time, to get that thought, that hard book that you have on paper, and there's a process that actually allows you to be able to do it. And you've heard it from a book coach, a business book strategist that actually works with more than 100 authors.
Right. I'm over 170 now.
Nice. So if she says this is what you should do, and this is probably what you should do.
I love it when a client is on one of my group coaching calls and they say, just do what she says.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. As you talk about years of experience and just so many individuals with so many different things. And I could talk to you forever. I haven't even asked some of the questions because we just had a conversation, which is what I love too.
I love it too, Cheryl.
And you do also not only coaching, but you also have writers' retreats.
Yes, I do. And I just had one. We had to change it from an in-person retreat to a virtual retreat. It was awesome. It was a 3-day writing retreat virtually.
Wow.
And I'm doing it again in May. And you can get information on my website. But it was a fabulous opportunity. We would get together in the morning and there'd be some exercises, some sharing, some work that we do together, and then people would go off and write. And I would help them even think about how they would construct their time so that they are using their time really wisely. Then we come back at 1 o'clock and we do a little more. Well, we'd have our word count celebrations and say how much we'd gotten done. I think there were 2 of my authors who wrote more than 10,000 words each.
Wow.
For the retreat. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Depending on the size of the book, that could be half your book.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, Cathy, I'll tell you, thank you so much for joining us. I don't want to take away from what we've had discussed. I want to make sure that our readers understand if you're interested in writing a book, you have so many opportunities to connect with a coach. You have a book that's written by a coach that will guide you and direct you. You have the ability to join in. Now everything is virtual, so you can even attend a retreat.
That's right.
I'm going to put that information in May also. And then one piece that I always talk to all of my interviewees about, and because I think this would be a great aspect for you to chime in on, is the review from the reader. And so how important is that for your authors in general, to get a review from a reader?
It is so important. It helps. It's social proof that your book is helpful, that it is helping solve the problem that you wanted it to solve. So yes, I love my reviews, and I encourage my my authors to shamelessly ask for reviews for your book.
It is truly important for an author to get a review. And I always say it could be 4 words, motivating, inspirational, outstanding. It could be simple, it could be more in depth. It's just the fact of getting it and knowing that as an author, you've actually reached someone. That's
right.
And so I'm excited about those opportunities. I love when I see one on mine. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what they thought. Yay. So, even if we get some that go, it's in the total opposite direction, at least it gives us an opportunity to grow.
It does.
As a writer, as an author, it gives us an opportunity to grow and know, okay, I need to focus on this area a little bit more, or, whatever that looks like. So please get the book. And she's got a couple of anthologies out there also. So if you look up the name, you will see a series of books under Miss Cathy Fyock. Thank you so much, the Business Book Strategist. I am so excited that you were able to share with us. And I'll tell you guys, if you're interested in writing a book, play this video back a couple of times. As there are some nuggets that you just might have missed. And you got them here on the Author's Lane. So thank you so much, Miss Cathy. I am going to put all of the links in the comment section. And then we're going to have another session on tomorrow, the Author's Lane. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I am always excited when I can bring an author to you that would just share their insights, their inspiration, an opportunity for you to kind of hear the story behind the story. So thank you again. You guys have a fabulous day. Grab a good book, read it, let it take you somewhere that allows you. There you go. That's your book, good book. On the mark, set, go. Get your book. So you guys have a fabulous day, and thank you so much, Miss Cathy.
Thank you, Cheryl. Bye now.